Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Binge Moto podcast, where motorcycle culture meets entertainment. And tonight we have a special guest, my good friend Brannen Butts from the great state of Texas. He's from the Action Motorcycle channel on YouTube, and he's got a good story to tell tonight about a recent trip he made out to West Virginia for the Motorcyclist Map Rally, right? And so welcome, Brannen. What's going on?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Just hey, before we get started, just congratulations on this, man. And I know this is a big undertaking, and ever since we kind of connected, I'm glad that we're able to kind of keep this going here. I'm really excited for Binge Moto and seeing where you guys go.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very
Yeah,
much. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun too. I've been doing a lot of editing, making little
So,
clips and stuff. Yeah,
hey, listen, a couple years ago, like I mean, you've heard me tell this story before, but I bought a camera just to document a trip, and then now I've gone completely down on the rabbit hole. I've got the headphones and the mics and all the sound equipment and everything. So it's a fun way to it's a fun way to spend money, but not on motorcycles specifically. So
right.
when you fully tricked your bike out, now you got something else to spend your money on, I guess.
Yeah, my wife is like, What are all these boxes on the porch?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing."
Yeah.
She's like, "Did you buy a backdrop?" And I was like, "No." Did you put brick up in our house? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could have just had the pallet of bricks delivered.
that's right. I mean, I
You
can
could
do it.
just.
I could
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
right.
It
That's
would
right.
have been a lot more expensive though. Trust me.
That's right. Yeah, no
and
joke.
and a little less difficult, a little more difficult to hide the wires back here.
Well,
Like
Brad Boulevard, and you got the Easy Rider boys right there. So
that's
that
right.
speaks to me for sure.
That was my first
So,
purchase. The
good
if
man.
you're listening to the audio, so by the way, if you're watching this now on YouTube and you're one of these people like me who likes audio podcasts, this podcast is available on all audio outlets like Spotify and Amazon Music and Apple and all those places. So you know, if you're like me and you feel like listen to podcasts at work or while you're driving your car or whatever, feel free to check it out. Recommend it to a friend. Oh, also, this week I was working on a job and the customer said he found out that I did YouTube stuff and he was like, "Oh, you're one of those guys that says smash that button or whatever, smash that bell." And I was like,
Smash the.
"Yeah," I was like, "I've never said that in my entire life, but you know what? I'm willing to try." So if you're watching this now on YouTube, go ahead and feel free to wherever that thing is,
Smash the
smash,
like button.
yeah, smash the like button or the subscribe button or the share button or whatever it is.
Hey,
Yeah,
funny story. My
it would help us out. Yeah.
funny story. My pop beat me to it, actually. So my dad has a channel riding into retirement as well, and he said smash that like button first. So he beat
Yeah.
me to that. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. I was like, I no, I've never said that. But
Well,
anyway,
good deal.
tonight we're gonna talk about a few things. We are gonna talk about Brandon's trip, and which I was pretty jealous because I wanted to go, but just didn't have time for it this year. And we're gonna talk a little bit of I don't want to call it news, but there's a few articles we saw about Honda selling 500 million motorcycles, which is pretty crazy,
Crazy.
and KTM getting bailed out by the Indians by Bajaj, and what else we were talking? Oh, later on, we're going to talk a little bit about gear. Summer riding season's coming up, and he's in Texas. I'm in Florida. It's super hot, like especially here in Florida. It's very sticky. Saw a lot of guys in shorts this last weekend. And anyway, there's some options out there where you don't have to, risk your skin.
That's right.
I had a very lame accident a couple months ago where I did a low side slide, and even with full gear, I still got you can still see the little scar there. I got
Hey,
a
there
little,
was multiple rolls in that slide, though. Like
but
like you like you put your
but
gear to the test. That's for
yeah,
sure.
I had gear on and I still got a road rash. So just imagine if I had a t-shirt on, man, my arms would have been toast. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, let's get into this trip you just took. I'm interested. So you rode from Houston,
I
Texas,
did.
all the way out to
That's right.
what
All
was
the way
it?
out to Mingo, West Virginia. So,
That's a hot
and
spot, Mingo.
yeah,
I've heard a
it's
lot
a
about
hot
that.
spot. Well, hey, so first things first, shout out to the Mingo Saloon and Lodge. They took care of everybody. That was really great. I actually signed up a little late, so I had to stay somewhere else. So I was riding to the Mingo back and forth every day. But boy, what a great road to ride on. I mean, so that's first thing. Whenever you get into West Virginia, every road, the
It's a
highways,
good road.
everything, every road is ridiculous.
Yeah.
In fact, there was one spot where I was sitting there riding with my dad going, why is there not like a warehouse with tires and bikes and coffee and everything right here? Like this should be like Moto Mecca for the East Coast.
Right.
And I mean, it was incredible. So, but yeah, rode from Rode from Houston all the way up there. Turned it into 3 days. I rode to Memphis and then rode to um, basically Huntington, and then my dad rode up from Georgia and met me in the suburbs of Huntington, and then we rode over and did the rest of the trip. So it was awesome. So it's the quick summary, and you guys have to watch everybody watching this has to watch the channel because I'm actually getting ready to post my first ride video of the Friday ride. It was really fun. It was 2 days of riding and camaraderie and fun afterward.
So
Um,
talk before we get to that, talk a
oh,
little
sure,
bit about the group, the Motorcyclist Map. And that's actually how you and I met, right? We met
that's
on the
right.
Motorcyclist Map. It's a Facebook page, but it has 180 something thousand members now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, so Motorcyclist Map is an app on your phone. If you don't have it, you
It
should
is
check it
now.
out.
Yes. Yeah.
So and it's really it actually is really cool. BJ or the Motorcyclist Map Dark Knight, the guy that kind
Yeah.
of
The Dark Knight.
runs the show.
Right.
He's a lucky man. He gets to ride around the country. And his wife follows him, and he's a lucky man. Um, but they created this app, and you can actually go and see places to say places to visit. You can zoom in on a place that you're going to go and check out things. But you can also, as a member or as having an account, you can add things that you find. So you can say, "Oh, I found the teepees on Route 66. So you got to go to these," and you can create things. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of like the Rubber app, but it's a little easier to customize, I think.
It's yeah. It's I really like the Motorcyclist Map app, especially now that I've kind of gotten a chance to use it a little bit more. But so they also have a Facebook page, and that's why I was posting stuff on YouTube, posting stuff on Facebook, and that's where you and I kind of connected all those months ago. And it turns out they also have rallies. So they got, I think it's 2 rallies a year, and this is their spring rally. They've only done this a few times. They tie in with Cruising for Kids, which helps out kids of
The charity.
veterans. A really really cool organization, great people. um so we basically rode out there and connected with everybody. I was It's funny, I was surprised, and then it was it's not a negative thing. I was pleasantly surprised. It was a little bit it wasn't overwhelming, is probably the best way to put it. It wasn't like you know 500 riders or something bananas. So the routes were really well thought out. The sites that we were going to go see were really thought out. It was well kind of designed. So I really appreciated and enjoyed that. Of course, I sponsored it in the sense that I'm submitting video. Video editing is kind of my sponsorship
Right.
gift or whatever.
Hmm.
So we're also taking all the kind of the video, taking video and photos from everybody else, and kind of creating some uh, media from that, as well as me just kind of making my videos as
I
well.
saw you
So
did a couple of drone shots too. Really nice.
yeah, I had some fun drone shots. There's another guy out there that had a Skydio drone that was really cool to see. Um, so excited about getting the drone. I actually, the first day, Friday, I only had a little bit of drone footage because it was kind of rainy. It was actually terrible in the afternoon. My dad and I ended up sitting in a national park, that the New River Gorge Bridge National Park Visitor Center. That's a mouthful. We
Yeah.
sat there in these rocking chairs for like 3.5 hours to let this big storm pass or whatever. But so that was kind of not the best day on Friday. It was good, but not the best. But Saturday, all the rain had rolled through, not a cloud in the sky, beautiful sun. I'm really excited about giving that Saturday footage a good once over here and getting it out to everybody soon.
So you have a um, Ducati Desert X, is that correct?
That's right, a
Yeah.
Ducati Desert X. Um, Not what you would, when you say touring bike or long 3-4 day
Yeah.
riding trips or 7 day riding trips. Not really the bike that you would pick.
Actually,
Um,
this is kind of strange because I've had two shows now. This is my second show, two guests in a row. Both of you guys are Desert X guys.
you know what? It's an
I mean,
amazing
you're the
machine.
only two people I know that own Desert X. Yeah. And
Well,
you
if
guys
we
are,
can get you off the Triumph thing, we got to take
yeah,
you. We got to go feed you some pasta and set some mushy peas and
right.
see what'll happen. But
Yeah, my buddy Jose is also, he's on a Multistrada, and your dad's on a Multi, right? That's what
yeah,
you
he's on a
rode?
Multistrada.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
nice
mean,
bikes.
so you guys should check out my dad's channel. And he hasn't posted the coolest videos yet. He went to some crazy off-road places by himself, just absolutely bananas. Um, on his trip last year, he did like a 2 month trip. I don't know if you remember that, like a two
Yeah, I
month
remember
trip.
that because you guys met
Yeah,
up in Colorado and did some
that's
riding.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. But so the Desert X, it performed really well. Tires were good.
What kind of tires do you have on there?
So I'm right now, this minute, I have the Dunlop um, uh, they're called the Trail Max Mission tires.
Like a 60/40 or
It's like a 60/40, more road bias, but I actually have in my garage a set of the next level over, which is for more off-road bias, which I actually had on the bike, and then got these because I didn't want to burn up
yeah, they would be toast by the time you got back.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
how many miles each way was it?
I ended up riding like 3,500 miles in total. Riding
That's
out there, riding around for 3 or 4 days, and then riding back. So on the way back, we went from uh, West Virginia down through Nashville, and then we actually rode the entire Natchez Trace Parkway down to Natchez, Mississippi. We did that one day, so that was a solid 10-hour day.
oh, yeah.
And then
I
talking
mean,
about Iron
I
Butt,
love that your dad's ride or die like that. That's pretty awesome.
he well he uh, hopefully it's more ride and less die. Like
Well, I didn't mean it that way. You know what I mean?
we
Like
were pushing. No, we
he's down to travel like that. That's
yeah.
pretty
Well,
great. You know, I
Natchez
know
Trace
young
was
guys that
his.
won't ride 10 hours in a day. You know,
Yeah, well, I'll tell. So I'll tell back, bring it back to the Desert X. Other than a little bit of head buffeting because of my height, the
right?
Desert X is it's actually an amazing bike. It's got the cruise control. I personally think the seat is really comfortable. I don't have the rally seat. I have the more regular touring seat. So it's a 937 Tetrastrata engine in a bike with off-road tires and killer suspension. It's just a fun bike.
Yeah, John uh, Ross, that was here last week. He actually built a little training track, and he's got a big, like, couple acre spot of land where his house is, and he buried some tires and put some
Nice.
hills, and yeah. So he offered to let me come over and give it a whirl on the Tiger. So
Well, is that something that we got to talk about for your future video? And you don't have to answer now, but there's an ADV school that's a weekend school in Austin,
okay,
and I would love to go. And you're welcome to join me if you'd like to, if we can find a
yeah,
weekend for it. But I would love to go and do some off road, like brushing up my skills and do the video, get the drone out, and all that kind of stuff.
they provide
'Cause
the bikes there.
yeah, so you can ride. I mean, you can ride the bikes there. You can stay there. They give you food. It's kind of all inclusive or
No, I'm saying,
whatever.
yeah, they include the bike in the
No, no,
program.
no. Well, I don't know if they include the bike or not. I don't know if they
Well,
include
that's
the
the
bike
thing
or
because
not.
I don't know if it'd be hard to ride there and back in a weekend. Obviously, I was wondering if
Yeah.
I could fly there. Like
Well, heck, I mean, you could fly there and borrow my other bike if you wanted to.
that's
You could
true.
borrow.
That's
You
right. You
could
got
borrow
the Royal
the.
Enfield. Yeah.
Yeah, you could borrow the Himalaya, which you'd probably have a much better time on. That thing's
For
just
sure.
so easy.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
lot easier to
anyway,
ride. Yeah.
watch out, man. We'll turn the whole video into me talking about my bikes. So
We
yeah,
got time. We got time.
yeah, that's true, and I can certainly talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So West Virginia was amazing, beautiful, good food. Really good people. Again, shout out to the Mingo. The Mingo's cool. It's got like a motorcycle kind of out in the front. It's trying to do the motorcycle thing or whatever. And they're building a big concert deck in the back, and very 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 cool. But there should be more like that out there because it is just I actually can't believe it. And the thing to think about is I suppose I guess the internet can correct me or whatever, but I'm pretty sure the population in West Virginia has been declining,
Yeah.
so we were there during a regular, weekend, and we rode out there. No traffic. No, I mean goose egg traffic. Like there was all these amazing roads, and we just rode the whole time. So that's the thing that kind of blows my mind is it's amazing and it's like free and easy. It's not like you're kind of trying to drive through some crowded area or anything like that.
Yeah. I was surprised how much further it was from my house than like going up to Georgia because I go to Georgia and North Carolina, Tennessee all the time, and it's 8 hours up
It's
and
eight
8 hours
hours.
back.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, West Virginia's not that much farther. And I started to look because I wanted to go. I was going to try and sneak in over there. And it was like 15, 17 hours each way.
yeah,
I was like, God, that's a
yeah.
lot to pull off in a long weekend. It would have, and I looked at flying up to like, flying into Pittsburgh there are no airports within like 200 miles of there. Not really. You know what I mean? Like not where you can rent a bike,
and
there are
not
closer
where it's
ones.
going to make any sense. Not where it's
Right.
going to save you time.
Yeah. So yeah. And then I was like, I still would have to ride 2.5 hours each way to the airport. And yeah, it would have been it would have been a big ask.
Yeah,
So
that would have been tough. There were some people that, trailered up there. There's some folks from Canada that trailered down. They're really cool guys. A couple folks that, are in the Winnebago that just always have the bikes. That's just what they do, which is another lucky set of people.
yeah, I'm
So it
envious.
was it was a good crew. It was a good crew for sure. For sure. So, you did your trip last year where you went out west. How often have you done big trips like that? Do you try and do one once a year? Is
Uh,
it getting more? Shout out, great
yeah,
shirt by the. I love your shirt, by the way.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, if you're not well, if you're listening to the audio version, I'm wearing a somebody sent me this Action Motorcyclist shirt in the mail
That
a
was
couple
me.
weeks back. Yeah, that was him. Yeah, and some stickers, which I still got to make the video putting it on the bike.
That'd be great.
I got a nice empty spot right in the front. I used to have the sticker
Excellent.
there. I pulled it right off a couple weeks ago, so got a good spot
Yeah,
for it. Yeah,
there you go.
but yeah, so I enjoy travel. I started off on a Bonneville. I mean, not really, but that was my first bike I did any trips on, and I started doing like long weekend trips. I went one time I rode all the way to New Orleans and back in like 2 days, and um been up to Georgia many times, even on the Bonneville. I added a rack to it, added cruise control, but then I started having ambitions to like go farther, which we talked about last week a lot. If you guys haven't checked out last week's episode, John and I were on here talking about the Long Way Around series with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman, and kind of how it inspired us to do like adventure touring, So it fired me up, and I really wanted to do like cross country. So that's why I bought that Yamaha Tracer, just to be able to do a cross country trip. And it got down to the point where it's kind of like there was never going to be a good time, so I just did it. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I said I'm going in October. I kind of try to time it out where it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, and I didn't want to I didn't want to go where it was, going to be 200 degrees in a desert. And I didn't want to go where it's snowing in the mountains. So that seemed like the perfect time. And I think other than the hurricanes that hit right before I left, it was pretty much perfect weather.
So what would you say to the folks listening as to, if they have, or they're considering a trip like that, or they're considering their first long distance trip, what, do you have any advice or thoughts, for the folks
I,
that might be considering it as listening to Binge Moto here?
I do. I think leave some time. Don't have your expectations too high about how far you're going to go. I mean, I knew where I was going all the way to California and back, and I knew I had to do it. And like, I left myself a little wiggle room. I could have squeezed out like 21, 22 days, but I wanted to try to do it 18, 19 days, which is what I did it in. I had one day in the middle where I didn't ride at all. I stopped at a friend's house and we just drank beer and watched football, did nothing for a
Nice.
whole day. Yeah, which was good because it was almost like right in the middle of the trip. Um, and I mean, I knew the way I did it, I knew there was going to be some days where there was really nothing that I wanted to see as far as like touristy stuff. It wasn't a national park. It was, it's Kansas, it's
Yeah.
windmills and salt flats in Utah. I mean, there's just some big long stretches out there that you have to do if you're going to do cross country. And those days, you know, put some good, I use like in-ear monitors, right? And then you can listen to an audiobook or whatever, just let your mind go, hit cruise control and just cruise. But then days like national park days where I was in Colorado, like Rocky Mountain National Park, I only rode like 200 miles that whole day, but I was on the bike all day, but it was just, 20 miles an hour through the park and then going back to the Denver traffic to get to my Airbnb,
Like Rocky Mountain, though, that's Rocky Mountain National Park is something else.
Dude.
I was there on a sunny day with no clouds in the sky, and it was like
Yeah.
I was looking for Yogi Bear and singing the national anthem. It was like Americana, 101 or whatever.
Yeah. So if you have more time, so because in the Motorcyclist Map group, there are guys on there that just do some insane rides. They're like, I'm doing 5,000 miles in 9 days or whatever. And you're just like, okay, you know, but there's also people that can take, you know, a month to 2 months, like your dad, and he can really stop and smell the roses and see all the beautiful stuff in between.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah, you
for
ride
sure.
100 miles a day or 200 miles a day or 400 miles one day and no miles the next day.
Yeah,
So
he was lucky on that trip. He was, excuse
yeah,
me, he was lucky on that trip for sure.
I would also say that you know you don't have to have the biggest of budgets to do it, and it really doesn't matter what bike you have. I mean, obviously, you want to have a comfortable seat, and cruise control helps. But you could do it on a Bonneville or Royal Enfield. I saw a guy in on the Bonneville Salt Flats that was going from, you know, Wisconsin to I think he was going to San Francisco, and he was on a single cylinder, 20 bags on that bike, just having the time of his life,
Hey
And I
man, so there's a guy that rode out to Motorcyclist Map on a Himalayan 411 like mine, not the new one, and it can do it. That little tractor can do anything.
yeah,
It's not going to do it fast, but it can do it.
right, right. I mean, I think I averaged like, $50 a night for the hotel. So, I mean, if you want to do it on the cheap, you can. Obviously, you could spend more, but
Motorcycles in general are cheap. I was talking about that with a buddy the other day. He just bought a boat, and that's awesome. I'm the guy who wants to be friends with the guy that has the boat.
that's what I always
That's
say.
that's
Yeah,
always been my thing, and more power to him. Motorcycle. Obviously, I've spent plenty of money on bike stuff, but in general terms, motorcycles are cheap thrills. Like you can have a lot of fun for not very much money.
yeah. They have a lot of those boat clubs around here, and I've got a few friends that have the boat club membership. Where you just pay like the 5 grand up front, and then you just pay $400 a month or
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah, and you get to take out different kinds of boats and all that. And I've gone out with them a couple of times, and honestly, boats after a few hours, I'm just like, is this all we're doing today? We're just gonna sit out here and you go to a sandbar and you just sit there all day and get sunburnt and drink beer. And I'm like, I could drink beer on my pool deck, like, or at the
It gets somewhere
beach,
there.
or I get sunburned there. Yeah, and
Hey, no, but no knocks to your podcast listeners that like boats and motorcycles.
right.
But yeah, definitely. My jam is much more being the friend with the boat guy, and I'll just stick to my two wheels.
Yeah, like once a year is good for a boat.
Sounds good. That's about right.
So speaking of your Royal Enfield, you sent me a little link to a story about uh, a tariff that's been imposed on motorcycles. From
Yeah, well, yeah,
uh,
pretty much. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
no, go ahead.
I mean, pretty much. The except for a few manufacturers, most of the bikes in the U.S. are foreign made or foreign bikes, and so that's it. It's bound to make waves in the market. I know it's certainly going to affect some of the
That's
um,
it's 25% across the board, right?
pretty much across the board, and that's obviously. I mean, look, obviously it's to help Harley, and that's fine and dandy or whatever. I'm not a Harley guy. I don't knock Harley. They're cool bikes or whatever. But what I will say is poor Royal Enfield because they have made inroads in the United States. They've had an unbelievable couple years of sales, selling these cafe racer. Everybody calls them hipsters or whatever, but single
Yeah,
cylinder, two cylinder max, 350, 450 displacement bikes that are just kind of low hanging fruit, easy, low cost bikes.
that
And
look
now they're
cool,
not low cost.
right?
So, and they're very cool. And what I would hope is that somehow Harley's got to tap into that. Somehow Harley has got to choke it down and make a low cost entry level motorcycle.
I,
I'm
I
not talking about a sports. I'm not talking about a Sportster that everybody's gonna laugh at. Read the room and figure out a bike. They tried it with the Pan America, so they obviously.
I think they have some overseas, right? That are made
I
in
think so. I think so. India
yeah.
or
So
whatever. Yeah, but
they've never really tried to bring them here, though. I mean, maybe now's the time to. Although I wonder with that probably wouldn't beat the tariff anyway, would it? Or does it matter where the company's from, or does it matter where they actually build the bikes?
well, what I would imagine is if they own the blueprints, they can Milwaukee can make it. Maybe I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
but there's got that Harley's got to do something to replace their aging you know client base, clientele, and look
Yeah,
at what
plus their average bike is close to 30 grand now.
yeah
It's out of reach for most normal people.
yeah it's out yeah I mean and that's and honestly that's kind of why I think a lot of Harley guys are really Harley guys because
You
they
have to
spend all their
commit.
money on
Yeah,
something
it's
like
it's a commitment. Yeah,
yeah like I became a huge Georgia Tech fan when I started spending my money on it like you know
right.
um but back to the tariffs thing. I hate it for Royal Enfield. um who knows with KTM getting bought by the Indians what's going to happen with that. We can talk about that later, but
Yeah,
um
I have a friend. His name's Don Baker, and I'm trying to get him to come on the show and talk about it. He used to be the manager at Tampa Triumph, our local Triumph dealer, and he last year he moved over to Moto Morini, right?
oh
Because
right
yeah, they're trying to make inroads here in the States, and they trying to build a dealer network up. And I did a demo day with him one day. He took me out private, let me ride all the bikes, and they were honestly they were great bikes. And I think seven thousand, $5,000 to $7,000 for, you know, great power, great torque. I mean, they have like a one called the Escape. It's like a ADV bike. It looks like a Tenere 700. Um, the only thing it didn't have is just didn't have cruise control. But I think they were coming out with a newer version of
Hopefully
it
you
this
get
year
there.
with more stuff. Yeah, but they laid them off last week. They laid off the whole staff across the entire country because they're like, we got these bikes that are 7 grand. Now they're going to be 10 grand.
Yeah, right.
Now you can go ahead and get the, well, I guess now maybe the Teneres are going to be more too. I don't know,
Well,
but
yeah, but of course, but now now an Indian or a Pan America or honestly, who better be successful here
hmm.
of all, who they better find a way is zero motorcycles. Damn well better figure out a way to be successful with these tariffs in place because um, you know i- if you can get over the I've honestly been considering an electric dirt bike, just something super light, easy to throw around. If I was going to get a fourth bike, at least maybe look at that. Um, but being, you know, we don't have a lot of non or we don't have a lot of domestic choices for motorcycles. That's just the way it is. So, I guess unless everyone's paying across the board, or we kick the entire industry across the globe in the teeth and see what happens. But um, hopefully we can find some domestic success there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I've talked about this in the past. I just don't think Harley's got the desire. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know they're changing out their leadership and all that stuff.
Yeah, I want to see who the new CEO is and
Yeah,
see what their thoughts are. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe not. Maybe I mean, so I'm wearing a Thrash and Supply shirt. So I don't know if you ever watched the Thrash and Supply guys. That's another YouTube channel. Shout out, fellas.
Yeah.
They don't know who I am, so they'll be like, "What?" Um, but
They
they're
will
also
now. Yeah.
so the Thrash and Supply guys are connected to the Two Lane Life guys. I don't know if you watch Two Lane Life, but they both ride big, road glides or whatever, huge baggers or whatever. They're killer bikes, and they do major miles on them, and you can understand why. But boy, that's a financial commitment.
Yeah, that's
Um,
I think that would be the only instance I might like to have a cruiser is to do like a long distance, like a flat straight highway. Because I get passed by Harleys all the time on the highway. They're going like 90, and they're just so damn heavy. The wind doesn't affect them. They're just chugging along there, like feet up, arms up.
hey, listen. I did almost no dirt on this trip, which is really hard for me because the reason I had the Royal Enfield in the Desert X is because Houston is flat and straight and hot, but I live right next to a national forest with lots of fire roads, and so I got into ADV riding a little bit. Now I'm big
Right.
into it or whatever. So it was really hard for me. There's actually some construction. That's actually super fun. I hit some random construction where I had about a mile of dirt. I was
Yeah.
like, yes.
Yeah.
So everybody like I was like I maybe hot dogged a little too much, but I didn't lay the bike down or anything.
That's good.
But I was super excited. I was super excited about that. But it was really hard for me to not. It was weird for me to do 3,000 miles on a Desert X on street because that's what everybody jokes about. It's like, oh, that's nobody's ever going to take. The people that buy them, they won't take them on the dirt, which is not true for me. But I will say, after riding for like 5 or 6 days and having the whole long ride back, I was sitting there going, you know what? If I could sit back and have some floorboards and, like it probably wouldn't have been a bad thing or whatever, but that's what it has to be for the guys riding PCH, riding across country all the time. So
Yeah, you don't realize like how much the wind affects you until you pass a semi on I-40 going 80 miles an hour, like that that wind, that buffeting wind that goes around the front of the semi when you get past that, it comes in from the side, and it's just the bike just starts doing this, and I mean, the tracer I was on weighed like just under 500 pounds, and even with me in the bags, it doesn't
still
weigh
blowing
as
you
much
around.
as a naked Harley does, like so.
Still
Yeah,
blowing you around. I hear you.
yeah.
I hear you. What I wonder if your listeners could give us some comments and let us know what they think about the tariffs and what I'd be interested to get some input from the internet on what they think the tariffs are going to do, or if there's anything we didn't cover, because
Yeah,
that's an interesting topic for me.
I honestly, I mean, politics aside, I'm not taking a side on.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I just not. I just don't know what the end goal is because all it's going to do is just make everything more expensive for us, and
Yeah.
give us less options. I don't know if it helps Harley and Indian a little bit. Is that really enough in the balance to like make everybody else's life a little less easy? Like that goes across for everything. Buying stuff at Walmart or Amazon or whatever. If everything goes up and a few Americans get a little pay bump, I'm not sure that that's equitable.
Well, I guess we'll have to see in 3 or 4 years
Yeah,
without
yeah. I
without
mean,
going down the political road.
no, no, you're right. I mean, I don't know. Because I'm not an economist, obviously. I'm barely a podcaster, so
Yeah. I
I
can balance my
definitely,
checkbook.
yeah. Well, I don't even do that.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, yeah. I don't even.
Uh, uh,
Every time we have to write a check, I'm like, where is the checkbook?
yeah,
Because it's like one check a year.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Good deal. What I mean, what do you think? Kind of talking about foreign stuff. One of the other topics you want to talk about was the Honda and the was it 500 million?
Yeah, so Hondo's first motorcycle company to reach 500 million sales. Their 76th year of business, and they've got production in 23 different countries, right? With 30,000 dealers globally. I mean, say what you want about Honda. I always kind of find them boring bikes, but they're reliable. They're everywhere. They've been around forever. It's you can't deny their success, obviously.
I mean, you have to forgive me when when we talk about the major manufacturers like that. The first thing that always filters through my head is MotoGP and racing and how how they're innovating and how in I know you don't follow that stuff quite as closely as I do, but yeah, I think you're aware that Ducati has been the dominant brand in MotoGP and in World
Yeah,
Superbike, and the Japanese manufacturers have fallen off. Although not recently. Recently, Yamaha has made some surges, and Ducati's had some stumbles. So it's been pretty. The past few weeks have been really there's some real good drama for your real MotoGP geeks out there. There's some real drama. Um, but I think about how dedicated Honda is to the sport, and I'm really glad that because I don't know if you know this, but Suzuki a few years ago dropped out of MotoGP
yeah.
completely, and just I hope Honda and Yamaha from a sporting standpoint find a way to come back and be competitive, and that's from a guy that's
Honda
bleeding
Ducati,
red
yeah,
over here.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I
but
think,
yes, but those Honda bikes those Honda racing bikes are super amazing for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and I think Yamaha's getting ready to debut their new V4, right?
That's right. That's right. So
That'll
it's
be
well,
interesting to see if it works.
well, it's funny because in 2026 they're making changes to the bike and dropping it down to 800 cc's, and it's gonna change everything again. So, it's really gonna be kind of an apple basket turnover. So I'm kind of suffering through Mark Marquez's success here. Hopefully things will change here soon, and we can cheer for others. But so Honda, they celebrated that milestone. Honda won the GP in Le Mans, the French GP in Le Mans, with Johan Zarco. Now there's a bunch of people that crashed out and had their own tires. And it was rainy or whatever, but still, a Frenchman won on a Honda. The first time, it's actually the first time a Frenchman has won at Le Mans on MotoGP. So it was a pretty cool thing. So they got a lot to celebrate these
Yeah,
days.
I'm sure they were pretty excited over there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I mean, Honda. Have you? It's making me think of something else. Talking about how they're everywhere. Have you ever heard? I think it's called Red Baron. Have you ever heard of Red Baron in Japan? Red
No,
Baron is like a motorcycle maintenance repair. It's kind of like it's almost like Walmart for Japanese motorcycles.
no,
Kind of like Walmart. Kind of like they do the repairs, so they'll sell you the parts. They'll repair the bikes. But I saw the coolest video the other day where they actually have motorcycle hotels where you can go to a Red Baron shop or whatever, rent a room, lift the garage door up, roll your bike in, park your bike right next to your bed, which is just the coolest thing ever. And I was like, oh man, And I hear that I think Red Baron just got bought by investment banking or whatever. Like, please bring something like that to the United States. That would be so cool to have, all these cool places to go park your bike and chill out in your hotel room and get it all cleaned up and
Yeah,
everything.
Japan's got a lot of
Cool
very
stuff.
interesting, cool stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Along with their 500 million unit making dedicated motorcycle manufacturer. So very cool.
yeah. I was gonna say one thing I was thinking about with the tariffs is, as far as motorcycles go, I mean, my fear actually is that these manufacturers just kind of abandon the American market because, if you look at global sales, America is really not a big market for them. Most of their bikes are sold in India and Asian countries and, whatever. Like, I mean, if you look at the list, I think America's barely in the top 20 as far as like global sales. So obviously Harley's the big dog here in America anyway. Um, I don't know. I don't want it to happen where, we get less choice because, you know, these companies decide, well, it's not fair, it's not competitive, and they just roll the carpet up and go home, take their ball and go home.
Well, to me, talking about that, what I think is going to actually happen, and I failed to mention this earlier, but what's actually going to happen is used motorcycles are going to skyrocket. So the used motorcycle market, right? I mean, right now, I mean, I saw another thing on Instagram or YouTube where, we live in this golden age where for $2,000 you can buy a 2009 Gixxer 1000, or whatever, and ride, with your flip flops and go crazy and be your squiddiest squid for no money, because we live in this magical time where bikes develop so well and we've had them so great for so long. I think the used motorcycle market and the parts market will probably be where we see an uptick in the next couple of years. Um, yeah, that's where everyone's gonna start pivoting to trading bikes again instead of importing new. That could be one option. And then you got the MV Agustas and the Ducatis and the Triumphs where I mean you're gonna buy it. Like is it
Yeah. I mean, MV Agusta is so I think their global sales, I saw like it's like in the single thousands. You know what I mean? Like they just sell under 10,000 bikes a year globally. But
crazy.
at the cheapest bike is like 30 all the way up to they have bikes that are like 80,000 bucks. There's one we have a local dealer here that has them, and they've got a couple there that they've been there ever since they've gotten them that they haven't been sold. You know what I mean? That are like one-off editions that are $90,000. Like
My bike shop has the LXP Oriole, the adventure bike that did I talk to you
oh,
about this
it's
at
the one
all?
the guy signed it, right?
Well, he had no, he hadn't signed it, but it's or maybe he did, but
It has
it's
a signature on it, right? It's yeah.
it,
The Arioli, yeah, they've got one at this place I'm talking about. Yeah,
so I I've got a whole video that I've got to make about this where I complain, but the Desert X was the original concept for the Desert X was actually a Ducati Scrambler that they made to look like the old
that car bike, right?
Kajiva Elephant.
Yeah,
And at the time when Kajiva was winning Dakar, it was um Kajiva owned MV Agusta and it was a Ducati engine in the Kajiva. So it was really confusing back there in the early 90s. Is it a Kajiva? Is it a Ducati? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. So long story long, um, MV Agusta and Ducati both can lay claim to the history of the Kajiva Elephant. So they've made these two bikes that are way too expensive for going off road,
and
and
they
that's
look
including
very
the one that.
similar.
Yeah, they look very similar. They're both ripping it off or whatever. So I'm all bitter about that because,
That
yeah, who
that MV
who
Agusta bike though, it's like 30 grand, right? It's
no,
pretty.
no, it's got to be like 50 grand. I think. I think.
Was
I
it?
think. I
Because
think. Yeah, it's insane.
yeah, they have one there, and I remember the guy telling me, the guy that owns that place, he was like, "Oh, it's great though. It's I love the Multistrada, but this bike it's better."
Oh, I mean, sure, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a. Am I going to take a loaded Land Rover to the Amazon? No, I'm not.
Yeah. Maybe in Jurassic Park. Yeah.
That's right. They had Ford Explorers in the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I believe they were Land Rovers in the book, though. But
Okay, maybe.
yeah, but I
Oh, it's
think
been a long time since I read that book. I didn't read that
yeah,
book.
Ford swooped in there and said, "Oh, let's make these Explorers." Yeah. So
Well, speaking of entertainment media, we've got to do our next. We've got for those that don't know, we also team up to do a podcast on motorcycle movies. So we've got to do our
that's right. We did a review of, if you can see behind me here, if you're listening to the audio version on I've got a little wall behind me with some signs on it, and one of the pictures I have is a metal printed photo of Easy Rider. It's the iconic shot with Jack on the back and uh, the Captain America bike and Dennis Hopper kind of looking off to the side. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
well, I've got a helmet.
Yeah, I've got a helmet. Yeah, he's wearing a football helmet, the gold football
That's right.
helmet.
But our next one we got to do is on we're going to do
The Wild Ones
the
with
wild one.
Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
another killer quote. I talk about needing to put on a lanyard or something. And well, what are you rebelling against? Well, what do you got?
Yeah.
That's a preview.
No, yeah, still the funniest part of that whole movie to me was when he was talking to the girl at the bar and she was like, "What do you guys do? Go on a picnic?" And he's like, "A picnic? No, man." He's like snapping his fingers. "You got to go be cool, man." Which, yeah, we'll get into that on. I don't want to spoil the episode, but man, that Marlon Brando, wow,
That's
so
pretty cool.
manly.
So manly. So manly.
Speaking of manly, let me do a little we'll do a little entertainment segment here because this past weekend I saw the latest Mission Impossible. I think it's called Final Reckoning. It was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 2, but they changed the name because I knew people wouldn't go see a Part 2. So this actually is, I think, is the first one where he doesn't ride a motorcycle. I was so disappointed.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, I mean every other one he's got great motorcycle stunts. Like the last movie, remember he jumped that dirt bike off the
yeah,
mountain
yeah.
with the parachute or whatever, and he did it like 75 times or something crazy. Um, but just a brief review of this movie, I'll say it's a 5 star
Really?
for set piece action. 5 stars for story, 2 stars. It's
Okay.
yeah, its story makes no sense. It's
Popcorn.
yeah, it's but there. I mean, I saw it in IMAX. I don't usually go. I'm not like I got to see everything in IMAX, but this was shot for IMAX and just happened to line up with the time I wanted to go. And I'm glad. I'm glad I accidentally saw it in IMAX because man, there's. I'm not gonna spoil what happens, but there's like one long, I don't know, 20-30 minute part where he's underwater, submarines, multiple submarines and rolling submarines and missiles falling and just I don't insane, like
Pandemonium.
everything shot practically, you know what I mean, like
Wow.
he did it, you know what I mean. He's 62 years old. He's in his underwear in the Arctic, under the ice, like
That's funny.
crazy. And then the last act of the movie, which you've seen in the commercials, he's on a biplane, he's
Yeah.
out on the wing, and they're using like physics, like the plane flips and then he goes to the other side, and
Oh my
just
gosh.
it was all film practice. You could tell like that's what makes the movie so good because
Yeah.
you could see they really did it. Not like it's not some green screen, it's not some Fast and the Furious where Vin Diesel's jumping out of a spaceship or whatever the hell they're doing now. They've gone so crazy.
Family.
Yeah, family. Yeah. But yeah, the story. There's some parts of the story where like the he's trying to give the bad guy the thing the bad guy wants, and the bad guy's running from him, and I'm just like, why is he running from him? Like he's trying to give you what you want, like, and he needs him to get it for his plan to succeed. The other guy needs it for his plan to succeed. I'm like, and they're trying to kill each other at the same time.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
I'm like, what's happening? Why are
What's
they doing?
happening?
Yeah, what is happening? We just needed a chase scene, I guess, But
Yeah. Well, point of contention for me in the second Mission Impossible movie, killer opening, one of the best openings ever, where he's free climbing the mountain. He's got the glasses. It's super cool.
Yeah. They play
But
the
there's the motorcycle chase scene in the second one. I don't know if you noticed this. It's two street bikes, and I think
it was a Ducati, right? It was a red Ducati, or
I honestly can't remember. But what I can remember is at some point they go off road with the same motorcycles, but they specifically stop, and you see a knobby tire on the rear of one of the bikes, and it makes, to this day, I can't watch the movie anymore. It makes me crazy. It's like come on, and I feel like that must be what, like, guys in the Green Berets or guys that are like Navy SEALs think when they watch it. It's just like, come on. But
Yeah,
not
I've
to
got a few
compare
friends
myself at all.
that are
I'm
like,
not drawing a comparison between motorcycle riders and Navy
right.
SEAls. Please.
My father-in-law is a doctor, and try to watch ER with him sometime.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're like, you would never. Why is he doing that? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Crazy name.
So
They're making out with the guy passed out.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, that's my Mission Impossible thing. But wow, that's a pretty
yeah. So
strong five stars on action. Okay.
if you like action, you want to see like amazing set pieces and they do this thing where they try to like tie all 8 movies into it. Like there's little flashbacks from every movie. Like remember this movie, he sold this thing, this that caused this event to happen, and
Oh, wow.
oh, remember in the very first movie he dropped the knife on that thing when he was hanging from the ceiling, and that guy got fired, and now he's out here in the North Pole, and that's the guy that what I mean. Like
Wow,
everything,
that's
every
so everything's connected, huh?
everything's connected.
How about
Like
that?
yeah, he's in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, and he just jumps out of a helicopter because they're like it's bingo, we can't make it back, and he's like just go ahead, and he just jumps out the back and hopes the submarine picks him up, kind of thing. So everything has to just line up perfectly for him to live.
Screenwriter impossible.
Yeah, right,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, there's some pretty bad dialogue, but like I said, the action's is top notch. Yeah, for
cool,
sure.
man.
Yeah. So all right, let's get back to motorcycles here. We oh yeah, so I want to talk about this. Sunday I did I don't even call it a ride. We went to breakfast and then we rode over to a cigar place. So not much of a
Counts.
ride, but
Counts.
it was fun. Yeah. Actually, to me, I live pretty far from everybody else, so every ride begins with a ride for me. Like usually the meetup is 30, 40 miles from my house. But I did notice it's Florida, it's summer. Uh, Nobody likes to wear, you're definitely not going to wear leather or whatever. I've tried every kind of like uh, mesh jacket, I've got Revit ones, I've got everyone. So last year I saw these ads for Knox. I don't know if you've heard of Knox.
Hmm.
It's a British company. They call them riding shirts. Here, I'm holding one up now if you're listening to the
Okay.
audio version. Um, they're like a mesh, and then they've got like level, I don't know, 2 or 3 armor. They're around $200. They got different ones that are with pockets and whatever, cost more. But if you want to get the like basic riding shirt, quote unquote, so it's supposed to be really light and like a shirt. So I went ahead and sprang for I usually don't spend a ton of money on that kind of gear, but I thought it's summer. I want to keep wearing stuff. I got
Nice.
it. It's a large. It fits so snugly that when I get where I'm going, I can't get it off. Like it
Wow.
literally, it's like I'm in a straitjacket. I'm like I'm fighting and you know, and
That's funny.
so I find myself in the summer, and it's actually pretty hot considering it's supposed to be like a shirt,
Thin.
because it's heavy. It weighs. I mean, I jumped on the scale with it, which I know is not an accurate way to test it. I weighed myself and then I grabbed it and stood on the scale, and it weighs like, I don't know, 5 or 6 pounds. It's really heavy. So anyway, this year I saw an ad for, uh, which is another riding shirt, and this is it here. It's also right around $200. Comes in a lot of different colors. I got the red, as you can see here.
Nice.
It also has really nice padding in it. Unlike that one, it is super light. It's mostly like a
Oh, wow. I can
nylon.
see through it. Yeah.
You can see through it. Yeah, it's like a nylon, almost like a football jersey you'd wear in high school. Like the cheap ones. Um, Feels like you're not wearing anything. It's great. It's fantastic. Now, the downside is if you ask me which one I want to be wearing in a crash, I would say I would rather be wearing the Knox if I was going to
Well, sure.
crash, right? If I'm not going to
Sure.
crash, I want to be wearing this one because it's more comfortable. The problem is I was riding home the other day, and you know how like when you're wearing a t-shirt and the wind starts flapping it up, well, that's what started happening with this jacket. I'm like, wait,
No way.
it's not staying in place. So I had to tuck it. I
Wow.
had to tuck it in my pants to keep it from sliding up. So if I crash, is the elbow pad going to stay in the right place? I don't know, but I do feel better than not wearing anything.
Yeah, you got
So
it's obviously better than nothing. I mean,
I also bought. They have a pair of pants, like a liner that you put on under your jeans, and it's also very light. It's made out of a very similar material, but it has like the knee pads, the hip pads, and the tailbone pad. And they actually don't make it feel any hotter than just wearing jeans. No, there are guys here in Florida wearing shorts every day. I see them all the time, shorts and tennis shoes, no socks. Crazy. Like I said, I had that little low side crash. I was wearing I was wearing a armored jacket, like an adventure jacket, and I had 3 t-shirts on underneath because it was cold. And the pad did slide a bit, and I got a road rash, through 4 layers,
Right.
So imagine if I was wearing nothing. So
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah,
Yeah, I look, I get it. You want to feel free, the wind in your hair, all the whole thing. And there's been times in my life where I've ridden down the street, and I might, if if I wash a bike or whatever, I might hop on it and ride a lap around the neighborhood real quick at 5 miles an hour, just with whatever. But other than that, I'm an was it,
at Gap, yeah,
yeah, I got guy. So, I've got 2 little girls, and that's pretty much the only way I'm allowed to leave the house on 2 wheels is if I'm covered up. So, I've ridden home from work in 103-degree weather, geared up or whatever, and that's just part of the life. Drink a Gatorade before you leave, drink a Gatorade when you get back. But
right.
um, I will say, so I just did a YouTube video with some outside the box tips for long travel trips. And I don't know if you've got a hydration pack or not,
I do.
but one tip that I've got that hats off to my dad for this one is if you're in a hotel or fill it up with ice or halfway with ice and it'll melt, but the whole time it'll keep you cool. It's like
Yeah, it's on your
an air
back.
conditioner or
Yeah,
whatever. Yes. So that was a little bit of a game changer tip for me. So, leave the house when you got, and I'm not drinking all the time. I'm riding. So, it stays pretty well on there for a good little while. So that was
I
a
would have liked to have had that in my jacket when I was crossing the desert into Vegas last year
no
because
joke, man.
even in October it was 115 degrees. It was so hot.
Oh,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I had in the water I did have was just a bottle. I just stuck up on the dash basically, and I couldn't drink it. It was too hot. So
Oh, yeah. Oof.
yeah, yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, being able to hydrate when you're on the road is that's a major deal because trying to stop every 175 miles when you get gas and drink something real quick, that's not gonna cut it.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why I do, especially on that long distance trip. I do enjoy having the option either a convertible helmet or just an open face helmet. Um, because you can take a drink that way. Although
Yeah, for sure.
I guess if you have one of those hydration packs, you can put the little straw in or whatever.
Yep, that's what you do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, that's what you do. Well, cool, man. I like those jackets. Those are cool.
yeah. No,
I
I like the Bond one. Like I said, maybe I'll see if I can figure out a way to tighten it up or it's also a large. I'm 6'2", 190, so that they're both a large. The one fits me perfectly. The other one, uh, you know, too tight. So I don't know. Maybe if I size the other one up one, it would be, but then maybe it won't stay in place. I don't know because they
Yeah, who
say on their
knows?
website it's supposed to be tight, and
Right.
I bought according to their little, their scale. But
Well, I'll have to. So forgive me. We'll have to do this as a teaser for next time. I
yeah,
actually just bought some all weather no leak socks.
okay,
And they're obviously not the coolest sock, not temperature wise, not the coolest socks. But when I rode out to Austin for MotoGP a couple months ago, I was riding my racing boots and we got caught in a rainstorm, and so I was actually pouring out my
oh
rain
yeah,
boots when I got to the hotel. So it would have been really nice to have dry socks and dry feet. So
yeah. That happened to me on the cross country trip, and it took me days to get my. I almost threw my boots away because they got so smelly or whatever. But I eventually was able to fix them. But I did recently buy for I don't know, it was only like 20 or 30 bucks these these boot guards that go on over your boots. They're vinyl. They go around and they just have Velcro in the back, and they have like a strap that goes onto the front of your foot, so they don't move. But you still have grip when you're standing on the street, right?
that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and they go on in like 2 seconds. They fold down really flat, so they don't take up any space in your bag. Um, so anytime I'm gonna go like long distance, I throw those in the bag. I got to try them out on that trip up to Georgia in March, and they worked great. Yeah,
Cool.
kept my feet nice and dry.
Yeah. So
So
these socks are, this is a little bit of a different mentality, is right. It's like, okay, well, at least my feet are dry, but
yeah,
it's pretty wild. It tells you on the website and all that kind of stuff. Like, put them on, stand in the bathtub with full of water, and see if they're wet or not. And sure enough, your feet stay dry. It's pretty wild. So I'll break those out for next video.
yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Um, Speaking of cross country, I'm giving myself a little plug here. I don't know if you saw, but I made a video. I wanted this like from the whole time I did the trip last year. I went back and every riding video I took with the 360 camera all the way across the country, I took like a 2 second clip from it. and I put them
Nice.
all together into like a 4-minute
Nice.
video, and I made a little song on uh, the AI app that I use. And I gotta say, I gotta give a plug to AI. Like, one day they're gonna end up controlling and running us all or whatever. But for right now, it's so cool because, especially with music,
That's great. Yeah.
all these apps that you use, like the 360 app or any of those, the music they give you is so generic and boring or whatever. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes YouTube will still copyright it, even though it's, free license or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I've had copyright strikes on stuff I posted that I've used the free music. But the AI
Right.
app, man, like you give it 3 prompts and it writes a song in 2 seconds,
Gives you a whole song, and
and
it's
it's
totally, yeah,
good. They're
awesome.
good. I'm like, I'm finding
Yeah,
myself
it's good.
singing it. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this song, I could put this on the radio, nobody would even know it was a robot singing. But anyway,
That's right.
um, I, I, uh, I don't know if anybody's going to watch it because people don't want to watch videos that are longer than 30 seconds or whatever, but I loved it. I watched it like 10 times today. I'm just like, oh my God, I remember that, like, 'cause it's
That's
just
cool.
so cool. Like, starts off rainy Atlanta, and then it's just like, then you're in Memphis, then
Yeah.
you're
Bam, bam,
bam,
bam,
bam,
bam.
bam, like just 2 seconds, 2 seconds, and it's just you can hear the engine roar, going by, and then
Very cool.
all of a sudden now there's trees, and you're in Colorado, and then you're crossing the Golden Gate Bridge, and then you're
That's cool.
on the Pacific Coast Highway, and then you're
Well, you gotta put it on Instagram and start putting some inspirational quotes on top of it, right? That's how
oh
you're
yeah,
gonna get
it's
your
it's
views.
it's on Instagram. I posted it as a reel also, so if you're following on Binge Moto on
Okay.
Instagram, or on YouTube, then check it out. But anyway, so I'll let you go here, but just want to say, if you haven't, go ahead and check out Brandon's channel, Action Motorcycles, and follow him on YouTube and on Instagram, right?
Yep. And
And
Facebook.
uh, and Facebook, right? And if you're not a member of the Motorcyclist Map Facebook group and you're interested in doing long distance traveling, I definitely
Yeah,
recommend it because
absolutely.
it's inspirational. Like, there's just people on there posting photos every day, and like the average photo on there gets, or the average like post on there gets like 2,000 likes because there's just so many people in that group, and
Yeah, it's super cool.
everybody in there is very positive, and you just and if you ask it like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Montana, should I do the Beartooth Pass or the Sawmill Run or
I did
whatever?
this. I did this. Check. Don't forget. Make sure you do this.
Yeah, you'll get bombarded with responses and great ideas and tips, and it's really cool. I
Absolutely. Shout
Yeah.
out to BJ and the Motorcyclist Map
Yeah,
folks.
they do a great job there. Yeah, so I definitely recommend that. But
All right. Well, hey
all right,
man, appreciate you having me on. This is great. I'm so excited for Binge Moto, and hopefully this is
yeah,
good enough where you'll want to get back sometime.
you're gonna be a reoccurring
All
co-host.
right.
Yeah. So
Good deal.
so anyway, thanks for joining us and hanging out with us and talking motorcycles and a little tiny bit of entertainment in there today. Um, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, share with a friend, and go ride a motorcycle.
Bond.